My name's Don Campbell. I'm a retired Indianapolis police officer. I spent 18 out of 20 years in criminal investigations. I'm not a know-it-all, but if I don't know something, you ask me, I'll find somebody that does. What we're going to talk about tonight is, we've talked about it several times. I don't know how many of you have heard this before. Tony Kiritsis' case. I'll pass these around, and anybody laughs at my striped pants gets kicked out. You'll pass those around.
Sure.
Here, just start them all so you don't cross. This is Anthony G. Kiritsis, who was a corporal in the United States Army, and this is August 13th, 1912 to January 18th, 2005. This is the shotgun that was used in the furtherance of a kidnapping of Dick Hall. Dick Hall was a mortgage executive with a Meridian Mortgage Company at 129 East Ohio Street. I don't know if any of you remember seeing it on TV when it was happening.
Yeah.
So it's
I
not
was
new
sitting
to
out
you.
of suspension, so I watched it on TV.
Did you remember any of this, Steve?
Huh?
I wasn't in Indy. I moved here. When did this happen?
1977, February the 8th.
I got suspended on February 2nd.
4 years old. I was 7 months old.
I remember that was
He
the,
was 7 months old.
I remember that was the first live TV, and I remember him cussing and cussing and cussing.
You guys saw, I think I really did see a Dateline or something like
They've
that.
had
Years
every
after.
25 years afterwards, they had a
Yep.
replay on TV. The FBI has done movies, or not movies, but training films on it. But what happened on February the 8th was Dick Hall was working at 129 East Ohio Street
Meridian Mortgage.
and Meridian Mortgage.
Yep.
And Tony Kiritsis had a beef with him, and he was upset. In fact, I've told everybody that if M.L. Hall, his dad, had been present, he hated M.L. Hall so much. When I got into Tony's apartment, he had targets in there that he had made up of M.L. Hall, and it shot at him. M.L. Hall had one of these fellows with a large head, and there's no doubt who it was. So anyway, when he went in to kidnap M.L. Hall, Dick Hall was the president. He was the only one there. M.L. was out of town. So he strapped this shotgun, and I'll be happy to pass it around to all of you. He went in with a bandage on his arm and had it wrapped up and carried this in, and then snapped this around Dick Hall's neck. He made sure that the police knew he was there. They'd seen him go in off the street, and Jim Brunk and another officer went in, and Tony showed him that he'd taken the safety out of the gun and showed him the rig so that the police wouldn't shoot him. Had the police shot him, in the there's a three-way trigger that if the body had fallen away from him, he would have pulled the trigger, or if he'd pulled the finger, if he'd been shot and fell away, he'd pull the trigger here or with here. So there's 3 ways, and I'll pass it around, Daryl.
Okay.
You can see that we've sealed it. I had to have, once I was in the newspaper that I had the sawed-off shotgun at my house over the fireplace, my friends from the FBI immediately called my buddy on ATF and told him, we don't care if he is a policeman, he can't have a sawed-off shotgun. So I had to take it down, and I was upset, so I took it, and it was kind of crude. The guy welded it shut there, and put a big plug in the end of it. And then we had it declassified, so it's not a sawed-off shotgun. But you can feel how heavy it is, and I did have a video, and when Darrell called me and told me I was a fill-in, I started looking for it, and I can't find it, but it shows Tony being marched down, I think I said Ohio Street, it's Market Street, and he cut through the Penn State, Pennsylvania parking garage and came out on Washington Street, went west on Washington Street with Tony hooked up to the shotgun, and he slipped and fell in the ice. This was in February. He slipped and fell in the ice at Pennsylvania and Washington Street and went down on his knee, and if he hadn't caught himself on his knee, he'd have blew his head off right there. So at Washington Street, and when you cross from Meridian, there was a police car there, and he commandeered the police car and had the guy drive him west on Washington Street. I was in the homicide office when the run came out, and they were telling us that he was marching him, taking a man with strapped to a shotgun on Washington Street. And I took George Marks and Dave Milligan, two Marion County prosecutors. They came to my office and we went out Washington Street. We didn't know where Tony was going, and he went to 220 Welcome Way Boulevard out in the apartment complex out there.
Is that Paul Anker next to Gallagher in this picture?
Who?
Paul Anker, the singer?
I don't know.
Oh, it looks like.
No, it was the sheriff next to him.
It's you.
Oh, you talking about me? Yeah. We went to the apartment complex and set up a command post at 220 Welcome Way Boulevard on West Washington. And that it preceded a 63-hour standoff that Tony had taken Dick into the apartments and he answered the phone and started making demands. He was very verbal, cursing and swearing about everything. And so there was like 63 hours between the time he took him in. And Gene Gallagher was the chief of police. He was there. He was in the command post. We had state police, FBI. We had Douglas, the guy from the Profiler on Silence of the Lamb. He came out. What they tried to do was get a profile on the biorhythm of Tony, how he'd rant and rave about how he was mistreated by Dick Hall and how he was going to kill the son of a bitch and so on and so forth. And we tried to they tried to chart his rhythms and figure out when he would be less aggressive and when they could attack the complex and then make an apprehension. So, like I said, it was 63 hours, and at some point, George Marks had promised Tony the world that he was going to give him a helicopter to get out of town. He was supposed to give him millions of dollars and all this stuff, which obviously we weren't going to give him nothing in the jail cell. So he came out, and in that one picture, he's outside, and he finally released Dick Hall. When he did, he took the shotgun off and fired it up in the air. It's been fired one time. Fired it up in the air. Pardon me?
Pointing it right at him?
Oh,
No, he took it off of him and shot it up over his head in the air to show him that it was loaded
real.
and it was real.
That was all broadcast?
yes,
All- it was
live.
All
All
televised.
black and white.
It went for.
Maybe on your TV.
Yeah, yeah. And we had made a plan, unknowing to Tony, that Gene Gallagher was the chief then, and Gene was in that one picture. You'll see him. He's real close to the situation.
Oh, here it is.
And Gene was going to step up and if Tony refused to release him, he was gonna step up and shoot Tony in the back of the head. And we had guys stationed around them that was gonna grab Dick
Who
Hall,
was gonna do that?
Gene Gallagher.
I thought, well,
chief.
when did Judd Green come in?
That's not what.
Judd Green wasn't even out there.
He wasn't a part of that?
I
Green's
didn't
not in one of those pictures. Listen,
Huh?
Green is not in any of those pictures.
No.
Judd Green wasn't even out there.
I know, yeah.
It was my investigation. I went out there with the prosecutor's office.
Yeah.
The
No,
first
but Green,
day from
Green had
there.
always said, I knew.
I
it was
know.
but he's
I
not
don't
in
worry
any of
about
those
him.
pictures.
I don't, Judd Green is a great guy.
So, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So he wasn't in any of those.
Anyway, he pulled the gun out and shot it to show that. And the minute he did it, then we grabbed him, or the chief grabbed him. He was gonna shoot him in the head and kill him. But he had unhooked him, so he released him. So they brought him up to the homicide office, and I was up there, and we processed him and put him in jail. He spent the next, Tony Kiritsis spent the next 10 years. He was judged, Mike Dugan was the judge, and we had a 2-week trial. And we spent 4 weeks getting ready for the trial. And we had a 2 weeks trial, and Tom Shornhorse was the guy in the picture, one of the pictures there, the white-haired gentleman. He was on a sabbatical. He's a law professor from IU. He tried the case for the prosecution. It's him right there. And Tony was found not guilty, but reason of insanity. Now, this was before they changed the insanity law. So Tony had to he was kept in custody, and he had to be evaluated to see if he was sane or insane. And he would never, ever take the test. He never would let him do that. So he spent the next 10 years in and out of Lexington, Kentucky, all the mental hospitals, the feds, and wouldn't take the examination because he didn't want them to say he was crazy. And so after 10 years, the judge called him in and just said, let him go. And
So he beat the rap,
and
sort of.
I was at the Charlie Brown's in Speedway with my family on a Sunday morning, and I hadn't seen Tony since trial, and it had been 10 years. And I'm standing in line waiting to be seated, and here comes this guy in a short sleeve shirt with his newspaper in front of him like he did in some of those pictures. He walked up in front of me and said, I know you, and I thought, oh, shit. And I said, well, you could. He said, what's your name? I said, Campbell. He says, you got my shotgun. I said, Tony, it ain't going to do us either one any good. It's been plugged, declassified. It won't do you any good.
Oh, wow.
He said, I'm not mad at you. He said, I'm mad at George Marcus and the prosecutor and Dave Milligan and you know, so on and so forth. And that was it. I figured I was going to have to shoot him.
Well, he drove Bobby and Mullen crazy.
Yeah.
Drove 'em crazy.
They were his first turning.
Yeah. You know that Bobby's dead.
Yeah.
No.
Bobby died race weekend.
It's a good gal.
She was the greatest.
Only Mullen was the best attorney.
Yeah. He was awesome.
Is there can I answer any questions? That's kind of a capsule form of it.
Why did Tony Kiritsis feel that he was messed over?
Tony Kiritsis thought that he had been taken advantage of, and it's kind of interesting. Most of the parties are dead now, so. But he had borrowed some money from Merida and Mortgage, and he had some property on